I'm about to show you how to make the easiest and best tasting no spread sugar cookie dough. Hey y'all, it's Connie. Welcome back to the Southern Cottage. Today we're in my catering kitchen because it's nasty outside and I can't garden, and I have some orders that I need to get done. People have asked, and I've decided that I'm going to show you my cookie dough recipe and how I get it ready for baking. This is the easiest and best tasting recipe that you're going to find. I started doing these cookies about 6 years ago, and now I do them for all different occasions. This is the same recipe that I started with. I have tweaked it a little bit and changed the way that I do it, and I'm going to show you that now. So let me get you situated so you can see what I'm doing. Now I'm going to tell you the recipe for a single batch, and don't ask me how many cookies a single batch will make. It depends on the size of your cutters. So somewhere between a dozen and 2 dozen. That's what I'm saying. It's either a few big ones or a bunch of little ones. You never know. So I just make a bunch of dough. I'm going to tell you the recipe for the single batch while I make a double batch. The way that I do it is going to be the same no matter how many batches that you make. So let me show you my mixer. Okay, I use a KitchenAid stand mixer. Y'all, my camera's sitting up on the table. It might get a little bit shaky. Forgive me. I use KitchenAid stand mixer. I have 3 of these, 2 out here and 1 in the house. These have been with me for a long time. If you have it in your budget, invest in one of these. It's well worth the money. Okay, a lot of baking recipes are very, very technical. This one is not. So, and y'all get your pens ready. I'll try to put it in the description for the single batch. I have to have my recipe book over here for a single batch because I'm used to doing a double and I don't want to do math in my head right now. All right, you are going to need 1 cup of butter, which is 2 sticks. I use Bluebonnet butter, y'all. I know it's not real butter. Don't come at me. I just like the taste of it. It's what I started using. Not that there's not anything better. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay? You are going to need 1 cup of butter, which is 2 sticks. Then you're going to need 1 cup of sugar. This is for a double batch. You're also going to need 1 teaspoon of baking powder and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Recipes will normally tell you to mix that in with your flour. I don't do that. Ain't nobody got time for sifting flour, none of that stuff. Y'all, for this recipe, it does not matter. Trust me, okay? Simple. Throw it all in there. We're throwing in everything except the flour right now. This calls for 1 egg. Now, you need to do this, especially those of you using farm eggs. Crack your eggs in a separate bowl and then dump them in there. Once you make sure there is no shell in there. And y'all, don't crack them on the side of your counter. Crack them flat. I've seen people crack stuff on the side of a bowl. Drives me nuts. Crack it flat. There's our 2 eggs. Your recipe only calls for 1. Single batch is 1 egg. And then it calls for 2 teaspoons of vanilla. I never measure vanilla, ever. I buy my vanilla in bulk. I put it in a squeeze bottle. Yeah, that looks about right. And then you're going to put it... Y'all, I was cleaning my stand mixer. Put it in your stand mixer. I'm going to raise this up, and it's about to get loud. KitchenAids make these noises. And I'm going to turn it on super high, and we're only going to beat it for just a minute. I'm going to try to hold the camera straight. Now turn on real high. That's it. I'm telling you, super simple. Let me bring it down so you can see what this looks like. The recipe initially called for you cream your butter and sugar. No, when you're making 20 double batches of this stuff, you don't have time to do that. That's what it's going to look like. That is absolutely fine. Okay? Now, single batch, we're putting in the flour. Single batch calls for 3 cups. You notice I didn't scrape it down? You don't have to. And I do not use your whisk attachment, y'all. It can't handle it. Use your paddle. This is 6 cups of flour. I did not sift it. I never sift flour. Ever. I just don't. And I'm just going to dump it in there. I don't remember if I said, but you're going to want 3 cups of flour for a single batch. Raise it up. We all know, start your flour slow. And it's probably still going to make a mess. You'll see it start to come together. And it'll start bogging down your mixer. You see how it's starting to come together? Look, slowly turn it up. And now I'm going to turn it up really high. And we are done. I told you that was simple. This is our cookie dough. Now, you will have most of your recipes tell you, like with pie crust, this cookie dough, form it into a ball, wrap it in plastic wrap, and put it in the refrigerator for 30 minutes, an hour, overnight, whatever. Yeah, I don't do that. Let me show you. The key to getting a great rolled cookie is in the thickness. This is your regular rolling pin. You can definitely use this for what we're about to do. You're going to need something to help you keep the thickness the same. The perfect thickness for this cookie is 1/4 of an inch. So you can go to your Dollar Tree and get one of these boards. They are 1/4 of an inch wide. And of course, this is $1.25. I would get 2 of these. Lay one on each side of your dough and then use the rolling pin to roll it out, and it'll keep it at 1/4 of an inch thickness. There's your first option. I have done that before. Option number 2 is the Fondant Rolling Pin. This is a large one. They make them in different sizes. I believe I got this at Walmart. It comes with rings that help you, that helps determine the thickness of what you're rolling out. This one is actually 3/16, so it's not quite 1/4 of an inch. Like I said, it's what I started out with, but it is not what I currently use. This is what I currently use, and this is made specifically for cookie makers. It's made by the Cookie Countess, and if you can see, this has these spacers on them. They're removable, interchangeable. This one is cut right into the wood. This is exactly 1/4 of an inch, and this is good solid wood, y'all. This is a really nice rolling pin. Now, this is an investment. When I purchased this several years ago, it was about $50. But for me, for consistency, It was well worth the money. There are times to save money, and there are times to spend them and invest in your craft, in your business, and this was one of them. This is the best $50 I've spent on my cookie making. This makes it so much easier. I have another one that is actually 3/8 of an inch right here. This is a little bit too large. You see the difference? I bought these both at the same time. See the color difference? This one looks just like it did when I bought it because I've used it one time, realized it was too thick, haven't used it again. I need to figure out what I'm going to use this for because it's just taking up space. This is my favorite. The next thing you're going to need is some parchment paper. I use parchment paper to roll out my dough, and I also use it to bake the cookies on. But I found this big roll of freezer paper. It costs about $20, and this thing used to be about that big. I have used this so much. For what we're about to do, you're going to understand why I bought the freezer paper, besides the fact that it's cheaper. So both of these are easily found at your local grocery store, big box store. This is from Sam's. I think I paid $10 for a 2-pack of these large rolls, and you get 164 feet. This is going to last a home baker a long time. For me, yeah, it doesn't. Hence the reason for buying this thing in bulk. Okay, let me show you the next step. All right, the next step is rolling out your dough. I have a really large pan in my freezer, so I make really large sheets of dough. So I am cutting a couple of sheets the same size. Now, I batch make this, so I will cut about 10 sets of these at one time. That way I don't have to stop and cut in between. This is the part that makes this so much easier, okay? We don't roll the dough up, put it in the refrigerator, and let it rest. We're going to immediately roll it out. What they're going to have you do, if you're following any recipe for cookie dough, is they're going to have you roll it up into a ball and wrap it up, put it in the refrigerator, and let it rest. And then you're going to pull it out and roll it out, and then cut your dough, cut your shapes out of it. Well, have you ever tried to roll out cold dough? It is so hard to roll out. It's tough on your body. It's tough on your hands and your arms. It's just difficult. And there's no need to do it. So I am going to take, y'all, my hands are clean. I am going to put one sheet on the bottom. Make sure you have your shiny side up if you're using freezer paper. Parchment doesn't matter. Put a bunch in the middle. Put another sheet on top. And press it down. And we are going to roll this out and put it in the freezer. And I roll it side to side first. And then front to back. And I'm doing a lot of dough at one time. This would be about one full batch. This is how much dough one batch will make. This rolling pin is just amazing, y'all. I can't say enough about it. And I can put some good pressure on it. And that's it. It's stuck between these two sheets. It's not going anywhere. I'm going to put this in the freezer and leave it in there for 4 hours. Now, if you went the other way, that the other recipes will tell you you're going to have to flour your surface and roll it out. You're just introducing more flour. And the more flour you put in, the tougher your cookie becomes. The more times you roll it out and mess with it, the tougher it becomes. This cuts out that step. You're not adding more flour to this. And it makes for a much more tender cookie. And good morning. We are back. So I have pulled a roll of cookie dough out of the freezer. This is what it looks like. Let's try that. Okay, so I am going to remove one side, put it back, flip it over, and then remove this other side. And that makes it to where it's super simple to take the cookies off. They're not stuck to either side. Let me put on some gloves. I have 3 different cookie orders that I'm working on. I've already gotten 2 of them completely done, and I've started on this one. And all you're going to need for this step are your cookie sheets, and I've covered them in parchment paper. And of course your cookie cutters. I'm going to start with this one. Put it down and push. Now it's hard. This is a solid sheet of dough. But when you pull it up, your dough is going to stick inside your cutter, and you can actually just take it to your cookie sheet and gently press it out, and you have a perfectly cut cookie. Let me do this one more time. I'm just going to gently press it out. It's solid, and it's holding its shape perfect. Let me show you with a little bit more intricate. This is a diamond ring. And just gently press it out. And you get a perfect cookie every time. Alright, I'm going to finish cutting these out and we'll move on. While my cookies are baking, I'm going to take all of my scraps, everything that was left over. I'm going to put it back on one of my sheets of freezer paper. I let it warm up just a touch so it's easier to roll out. And then I'm just going to re-roll this out and put it back in the freezer. There is absolutely no waste. It's not going to get tough because we're not adding in any more flour. And this is exactly the same as the initial rollout when we first made the dough. This dough will be used in my freezer in the next week. So I can leave it just like this. If you want to make it ahead of time, make it in smaller sections. That way you can slip it inside a Ziploc and put it in your freezer. Or you can just fold up these sides, tape them down, because this is freezer paper. It's going to keep it just fine. So finish rolling this out. It's a little bit harder because it is cold. This is why we don't want to do this the whole time. This is why we roll it out when it's fresh. I'm going to let this sit a little longer and then I'll finish rolling it out. But that's all you have to do. No waste. Put this back in the freezer and it keeps for a long time. These cookies bake in a 400-degree preheated oven for 10 minutes. And my timer just went off, so let me grab them. Not quite done. But these are. So I'm going to bring these out and I slide them off of the cookie sheet. And then I take, this is a fondant smoother. You can find these at Walmart or Michael's, any place like that. Let me move this down. And all I do, let me bring you a little bit closer, guys. I take the fondant smoother as soon as they come out and just kind of flatten out the top. And this gives you a nice smooth surface. They only puff up a little bit. Let me pick this up and show you. It's a little bit rounded there. And when you use this, it flattens it out and it gives you a nice flat surface for your icing to sit. See how this is rounded and this is not? Makes the perfect surface for your icing. I'm going to go ahead and smooth all these down, and I will remove these to a cooling rack until they're completely cooled, and then they're going to be ready to ice. If you're not ready to decorate these and you want to make them ahead of time, put them in a Ziploc bag and they will stay nice and fresh for up to a week. You could even wrap these up good and put them back in the freezer. If you want to make, say you're getting ready to do Christmas cookies and you don't want to spend the whole holiday season baking them, summertime, bake them, put them back in the freezer. You are good to go. I'm going to move these to a cooling rack. Put them right on there. They can be touching. They will definitely cool. And let them cool completely, and then I'm going to decorate. That's going to be another video. Thank y'all so much for joining me. I hope you learned something. And if you have any questions, definitely put them down in the comments. And I'll see y'all soon. Bye.